I'm at Score Footwear in San Diego, California, checking out this pair of Nike Shox prototypes that was recently uncovered by my buddy Dimitri, the owner of this store. But before we have a look at these prototypes, let's talk a little bit about the history of Nike Shox. They were first unveiled in the year 2000, and there were three different models: the R4 for running, the BB4 for basketball, and a pair of XTs for cross trainers. And as you can see over here, the basketball pair was worn by Vince Carter. But long before the year 2000, Nike was working on Shox technology. It actually took them 16 years to develop Nike Shox, with a team of scientists and engineers. And the inspiration for Shox was actually an indoor springy track at Harvard University. The goal of Nike Shox was to absorb cushioning and pounding upon impact, but then spring back to give you extra bounce in your step. Come on over here and let's have a look at this pair of prototypes. I'm so excited to share them with you. They're actually a modified pair of Nike Air Skylons, which was a Nike Air running shoe from the late 80s. Check them out. Something really cool about this pair of shoes is that it still has the Nike Air branding. The tongue says Nike Air Skylon. The heel has the familiar Nike Air on here, but when you look at the midsole, you'll see that it has Nike Shox technology. I think that Nike was trying to figure out how to put this technology onto a pair of shoes. At this point, they weren't trying to mess with the upper. They just took a popular pair of running shoes and sort of slapped this on here. Check out the outsole of this shoe. Look how crazy and funky and especially elongated it is at the heel. And these little cuts right here at the forefoot, this is such a crazy pair of shoes. At first glance, you might think this is some crazy custom. But when you're looking at the details, specifically the glue marks that attach the upper to the midsole, there's no way that these are customs. These were made at Nike, and they're a prototype, a pair of samples long before Shox were unveiled. They're a sample size 9, as you can see right here, and there's no tag in here with a style number, color code, no information, no date of production. It's just simply sample size 9 and a pair of Air Skylons with these Shox fused on the bottom. Let's compare the way these Shox look to the R4, which was the first running Shox. And you can see how much more seamless it is down here and futuristic. And of course, it doesn't protrude off the heel back here. I mean, just look at the uppers of this shoe compared to one another. This one looks so crazy and futuristic compared to this pair of Air Skylons. It's so cool to see where Nike Shox got started. I heard all these years that it took Nike so many years to develop the technology, and right here is proof that it really took them that long. I spent some time on the USPTO website this morning. That's the United States Patent and Trademark Office website. And I was shocked to find out that there were more than 80 different patents having to do with Nike Shox and Nike springs and spring cushioning. There's so many different ways of describing it. Check out this picture from 1985, where the Shox are actually tucked into the midsole. Remember, in 1985, Nike Air was not visible yet. That didn't happen until 1987. So at this point, in the mid-80s, when Nike was developing the Shox technology, it was buried into the midsole. But as we look at more patents, check this one out from 1994. You'll see that you can actually see the Shox. And you'll see right here that these Shox actually protrude from the heel, just like the pair of sample prototypes that you see right here. Something else cool about this patent is one of the names featured on here. Have a look, Bruce Kilgore. He was the inventor of the Air Force One, the Air Force Two, the Air Jordan 2, a whole bunch of cool shoes, and he worked on developing Nike Shox. As we look to a more recent patent, check this one out from after the year 2000, you'll see that the Shox look a lot like the Shox that actually came out, and they don't protrude off the back. And when you look at the names on this patent, you'll see another familiar name, which is Sergio Lozano. He was the designer of the Air Max 95. So we had a lot of amazing designers along with the scientists and engineers that were working on developing this technology. Amazing to have this pair of shoes in my hand. Have a look close up at it. Let's spin it around and have a look at the heel. It's so crazy. So unbelievable. And actually the Shox themselves are very similar to the Shox that came out later on, but it's this whole crazy piece right here that's so different. I feel so lucky to have this pair of shoes in my hand. I'm thankful that Dimitri was able to find this pair of shoes. If you're ever in San Diego, check out Score Footwear, located at 1750 Robinson. Amazing shop. Dimitri also does amazing restoration work. So if you have any old shoes from the 70s or 80s that you want cleaned up or worked on, find Score Footwear. Anyway, it's been a pleasure walking you through these prototypes and comparing them with the Shox that were actually released in the year 2000.